The Canadian Constitution, arguably the most important document after the British North America Act that outlines the entire structure of our government. What is a constitution? A constitution is a document that defines the political structure and the relationship between Canada's government and its people. It outlines the powers and responsibilities of the government. And the central principles are peace, order, good government, and the acceptance of rule of law. The highlights of our Constitution can be, and most importantly, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Pierre Trudeau's legacy. And while the Constitution establishes the two levels of government, being that of federal and provincial, there are 147 sections or points to the Constitution. But sections 91 through 95 deal with the separation of power. What does the federal government have, and what does the provincial government have? And in particular, Section 91 outlines federal jurisdictions such as defense, postal, fisheries, criminal law, census, and currency, whereas Section 92 is hospitals, forests, municipal government, highways, property, and civil rights. It outlines the division of power. Who is responsible for what? The Constitution has changed throughout the centuries. Early on, in 1763, there was the Royal Proclamation Act. After the 7 Years' War, the Battle Plains of Abraham and Great Britain had conquered the French colony of New France. Because of that, in 1774, the Quebec Act was made, and the Quebec Act recognized French civil law and the religion in Quebec. And that was arguably because of the American Revolution. So the British wanted to appease the French Canadians. In 1791, after the American Revolution, all those United Empire Loyalists are coming up. So Britain established Upper and Lower Canada because of the United Empire Loyalists. In 1840, because of the rebellion that happened in 1837, Lord Durham recommended the Upper and Lower Canada to be merged into one province with an elected body, and this would be the answer to solve the issue between English and French. However, it created a political deadlock, which led to the founding or establishing of the Great Coalition that had John A. Macdonald, George Brown, and George Etienne Cartier to solve the political deadlock, that being English and French, and to lead the Great Coalition those three conferences like Charlottetown, Quebec City, and then London to establish the Dominion of Canada, which was the British North America Act of 1867, with the original four provinces. Then came the Bill of Rights in 1960 until eventually in 1982 it ended officially the power of the British Parliament to legislate Canada, and Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, wanted to bring home or to repatriate the Constitution. And in this repatriation, they came up with a formula of how, if we ever need to change the Constitution and to embed the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms into the new Constitution called the Canada Act. Now, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was entrenched into the Charter to keep it safe. Before then, Canadians' rights were merely protected by various laws, but now this was the strongest, most powerful protective way to ensure all rights and freedoms of Canadians are respected and protected. That was Pierre Trudeau's legacy. Now you might be wondering, what are some of the categories to this charter? Equality, mobility, legal, language, fundamental rights, democratic rights are some of the examples of categories. An example, equality rights means the freedom from discrimination, no matter the based upon race, origin, religion, sexual orientation, age, mental and or physical disability. Canadian citizens or anyone on Canadian soil are free from any forms of discrimination. Mobility means that Canadian citizens have the right to live and work anywhere in this country. Legal rights has a, so if the person is accused of a crime, they have right to life, liberty, and security, and a fair trial. In Canada, you are innocent until proven guilty, and you're not going to be subject to any forms of cruel or unusual punishment. Language established that there are two official languages in Canada, that being English and French, which means anyone can have a right to have their education in one of those two official languages, but it also means minority groups can also have their education in the language of their choosing as well. As Canadians, there are examples of fundamental rights such as think, want, belief, expression, association, religion, and speech. These freedoms are considered to be the basic of the Canadian democratic society. Nothing can override these. Democratic rights, while you think it might be strange that, of course, Canada is a democracy, but we still have to define it. And democratic rights means the right to vote, and anyone that is a citizen can run for office. There has to be an election every 5 years. And Parliament needs to meet only once. To change all this at all, part of repatriation in 1982 by Pierre Trudeau for the Canada Act was the amending formula. Any changes to the Constitution needs to follow this formula, and this formula has proven to be Pandora's box. While the math is simple, 7 out of 10 provinces with 50% of population agreeing to a change there is a Section 33 of the Charter that allows the province to use this escape clause to opt out for one portion of the Charter for up to 5 years. But it has to be redone every 5 years afterwards. But no, changing the Constitution has proven to be politically dangerous on many, many levels. But for changes though, there has been some. The Constitution Act was there to be repatriated. Originally, the BNA Act or the British North America Act was the original Constitution, and so in 1982 the new one had the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Notwithstanding Clause, which gave the provinces and Parliament the right to declare laws exempt from previous topics. As I mentioned before, what is a minority government? As we're getting to elections, it's important to know some of these terms. First is majority or minority governments. This is once again going back to political ideologies and the political parties and who. Essentially, in an election, if a political party wins more than 50% of the seats, that means they have the majority. And the benefit is that if MPs vote with the party, MPs being member of parliament, the government cannot be defeated. The parliament always has half the seats, so they always would win the vote there. And so the government will always have the ability to pass the laws that they want to have passed for their 4 or 5 years mandate. However, if it's a minority government and minority government means they have less than 50% of the vote, but there still is one party that did get more seats than the other. Um, Parties must form alliances with one another in order to make anything pass. Currently, in 2021, Justin Trudeau's Liberals have a minority government, so they need to make deals with either the NDP or Conservatives or the Bloc Québécois to gain enough votes to pass any sort of bills or passing in the House of Commons. It is a way that they have to always cooperate and find that proverbial middle ground. And that is a first look into the Constitution.